The carpal bones make up the wrist joint. Carpal comes from the Greek word karpos, meaning wrist. There is total 8 carpal bones, which are arranged in 2 rows. The proximal row contains, from lateral to medial side, the scaphoid, the lunate, the triquetral, and the pisiform. The distal row contains in the same order the trapezium, the trapezoid, the capitate, and the helmet. The proximal row is convex proximally and concave distally. The distal row is convex proximally and flat distally. You can remember these 8 bones and their arrangements easily with the help of mnemonics. She looks too pretty, try to catch her. As you can see here, the proximal row has 4 bones that you can memorize with the help of this mnemonic, and the distal row also has 4 bones as shown here. The mnemonic recalls the bones from lateral to medial. As the 8 bones are packed together, they articulate with one another. Let's go through the articulations of carpals one by one. The scaphoid articulates with radius, lunate, trapezium, trapezoid, and capitate. The lunate articulates with radius, scaphoid, capitate, hamate, and triquetral. The triquetral articulates with pisiform, lunate, hamate, and articular disc of the inferior radiulnar joint. The pisiform articulates only with the triquetral. The trapezium articulates with scaphoid, first and second metacarpals, and trapezoid. The trapezoid articulates with scaphoid, trapezium, second metacarpal, and capitate. The capitate articulates with scaphoid, lunate, hamate, second, third, and fourth metacarpals, and trapezoid. The helmet articulates with lunate, triquetral, capitate, and fourth and fifth metacarpals. The metacarpals serve as muscular attachment site for various muscles, as you can see here. We will talk about the detail of the compartments of the hand and muscles of the hand in an upcoming video in much detail. That is all about the carpal bones. Let's look at the metacarpals now. The metacarpal bones are 5 miniature long bones, which are numbered from lateral to the medial side. Each bone has a head placed distally, a shaft and a base at the proximal end. The head is round. It has an articular surface which extends more antero-posteriorly than laterally. The heads of the metacarpal bones form the knuckles during flexion and can be felt subcutaneously. The shaft is concave on the palmar surface. Its dorsal surface bears a flat triangular area in its distal part. The base is irregularly expanded. As you can see here, the metacarpal bones form 2 joints. One with the carpal bones proximally known as carpometacarpal joint. Second with phalanges distally known as metacarpophalangeal joint. We know that on the proximal end, the metacarpals articulate with the distal row of carpal bones, and on the distal end, each metacarpal head articulates with the base of its corresponding proximal phalanx. First is thumb metacarpal, which articulates with the trapezium through a saddle-shaped synovial joint. The second is index metacarpal that articulates with the trapezoid, as well as the trapezium through a small tubercle. The third or middle metacarpal articulates with the capitate bone. The fourth or ring metacarpal articulates with the hamate, as well as a small part of the capitate. The last one is the little metacarpal, which articulates with the hamate. The 4 metacarpals, other than the thumb metacarpal, are also joined proximally with each other. The ligaments of intermetacarpal articulations are present which unite the metacarpal bones. These are the dorsal, interosseous, and palmar metacarpal ligaments. We have had done all the articulations of the metacarpal bones. The musculature at the metacarpals is also divided into compartments. There are intrinsic palmar and dorsal muscles, as well as extrinsic muscles. As you can see, there are several attachment sites at the metacarpals and carpals shown here. But here we will only talk about the group of muscles known as intrinsic muscles, the hand. Some of these muscles originate from the carpals. You can remember these muscles with the help of a mnemonic. All for one and one for all. The mnemonic recalls the intrinsic muscles of the hand in the order of medial to lateral. All, abductor pollicis brevis. 4, flexor pollicis brevis. 1, opponens pollicis. And adductor pollicis. 1, opponens digiti minima. 4, flexor digiti minima. All, abductor digiti minimi. The bones of fingers are called phalanges in the language of anatomy. Phalanx is for a single bone and phalanges for all. There are 14 phalanges in each hand, 3 for each finger and 2 for the thumb. Due to their location, they are divided into distal, middle, and proximal phalanges in each finger. Proximal phalanx, right beside the metacarpals. Next to them is the middle phalanx, which connects the proximal and distal phalanx through interphalangeal joints. The topmost is the distal phalanx, which is also known as the fingertip. Thumb has only 2 phalanges, proximal and the distal one. Each phalanx has a proximal base, a shaft, and a distal head. Base. In the proximal phalanx, the base is marked by a concave oval facet for articulation with the head of the metacarpal bone. In the middle phalanx, or a distal phalanx, it is marked by 2 small concave facets separated by a smooth ridge. Shaft. The shaft tapers towards the head. The dorsal surface is convex from side to side. The palmar surface is flattened from side to side, but is gently concave in its long axis. Head. In the proximal and middle phalanges, the head has a pulley-shaped articular surface. In the distal phalanges, the head is non-articular and is marked interiorly by a rough horseshoe-shaped tuberosity, which supports the sensitive pulp of the finger/tip. The phalanges are connected together by 3 joints in fingers that are the metacarpal phalangeal joint. As the name tells us, it connects the metacarpal bones to the proximal phalanges. The end of metacarpal bone is rounded. Base of proximal phalanx has an articular facet to which it gets fixed and forms a joint. The 2 interphalangeal joints are proximal interphalangeal joint, hinge type of synovial joint. It connects the proximal and middle phalanx. Head of proximal phalanx articulates with 2 articular facets on base of middle phalanx, forming PIP joint. Distal interphalangeal joint, also a hinge variety of synovial joint. It connects the middle and distal phalanx. Base of distal phalanx has 2 facets for articulation of the middle phalanx head. Then we have 2 joints in thumbs that are metacarpal phalangeal joint and interphalangeal joint. As for the attachment of musculature at phalanges, fingers allow several movements and allow us to touch, feel, and grab things. The attachments that are seen at phalanges are divided into palmar ligaments, collateral ligaments, hypothenar muscles, lumbricals, dorsal interossae, palmar interossae. You can check our video on phalanges of hand to go through the details of the musculature of hand, as well as the movements that occur at these joints. That concludes our video on the bones of upper limb. That is the clavicle, scapula, humerus of the arm. radius and ulna of the forearm, and lastly, the bones that make up the hand. Stay tuned to sqadia.com to watch more videos on human anatomy.
Explore our extensive library of over 1,800 video lectures to learn about a wide range of topics. Only on sqadia.com.